If the Cubs are going to make a splash in free agency, it appears they're going to have to work with Scott Boras. We're going to talk about that, the players that are available, the players that are represented by Scott Boras, and the fits that the Cubs need and that those players need as well. Thank you for hanging out with us here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Hit the bell so you know when we're dropping a new show. Let's get this party started. Go Cubs! What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm Mick Gillespie, and I do ask you to follow on the socials at Broadcaster Mick. All right, let's start talking some Cubs baseball here, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. Still waiting for something to break, right? And maybe the reason why that things really haven't broken yet, and I mean signing of a free agent or two, is because a group of the players that when you look at who's available and who would really fit this Cubs roster are all Scott Boras clients. And as much as we've talked about it, and you guys know, he has no rush, no hurry. He likes to play the market out for his clients. And it is a long and tedious process. And if a team jumps too early, then they're probably going to lose the negotiations. Yeah, I know. But part of that is that, you know, maybe time's on his hand because, you know, the club's going to have to figure something out, right? Because spring training starts and they're going to want to know who's on the roster. But it does turn to the detriment of the player because you got to get ready for the season too. So at some point, if I'm represented by him and there's a contract on the table, yeah, I'd like to have that extra money, but I'd also like to go ahead and get it done. And with a lot of these guys, it's not like the extra money is really going to make that much of a difference in their life because they're paid so much anyway. I mean, it really is just a matter of, you know, adding more onto an already high pile, right? I mean, let's be honest. First off, read a great story by our friend Patrick Mooney, who comes on our site from time to time in The Athletic. And he was talking about Scott Boras and kind of the same topic. And he mentioned that his sources say that it's unlikely that the Cubs sign Shota Imanaga. Well, that's interesting, you know, because Jeff Bowden, the MLB insider, the former GM, had the Cubs listed as one of Imanaga's final four teams. And of those final four teams, it really felt like the Cubs would have been a great fit because you had the Giants who just traded for Robbie Ray. Are they going to go out and really spend for another pitcher? They might, but they might not. I mean, they've done a lot this offseason already. You got the Angels, dumpster fire, although with Ron Washington coming over, I think that Ron Washington is one of the unsung great coaches in baseball. He's obviously had some personal issues that have held him back, but I think all of us love Ron Washington, want to see him do well. Maybe he changes the culture there, but the problem is that the organization's foundation is very soft. And I'm talking about players outside of the stars, right? Well, now you don't have Shohei Ohtani. You got Mike Trout, but you couldn't win with Mike Trout and Ohtani. You know, what are you going to do with very little pitching, very little players ready to come up and help from the system? It's going to take a while. I mean, this is a build, and I don't see the Angels being truly competitive for a while. The Red Sox, which seem to be wanting to shed payroll and not pick it up, and Imanaga's looking, you know, between $75 and $100 million in a 5-year contract, or at least that's kind of where we're at. And then the Cubs, who need a starting pitcher. So that's something to, again, keep track of. 5-pitch arsenal for Imanaga. left-hander, has never pitched in the major leagues, 30 years old, though, a star in Japan, pitched for the Bay Stars, ironically, and it was really good. You know, we've talked about his numbers there. Doesn't walk many, strikes out a lot, not overpowering, and, you know, low 90s, but a great pitcher. And I think great pitchers are undervalued right now in the game. So whoever gets this guy, if he comes over and he is able to do the same thing in MLB as he did in Japan, they're going to get a great pitcher. With that said, if the Cubs are out on him, now you start to look at who's available. And one of those guys is Jordan Montgomery. And as Mooney mentioned, he's represented by Boris. Blake Snell, represented by Boris. Sean Manaea, represented by Boris. James Paxton, Matt Moore, all Boris clients. And these are all really good pitchers. I mean, I can go down the line and talk about it. Like Montgomery was so instrumental in the Rangers winning the World Series. And this is a guy who constantly was on the verge of becoming an elite pitcher. And we finally saw it down the stretch for the Rangers. And you would think that bringing that confidence and that track record of success, wherever he ends up, he's going to do well. He could go back to the Yankees that need a pitcher. The Rangers might sign him, although I could see them saying, hey, you know what? We're good because we got some guys that were injured. They're coming back. We'll let him go, and we'll go out and sign Josh Hader, and we'll have the best closer in the game. You know, maybe he finds another home somewhere else, but former Cardinal as well. It'd be nice to have him back in the Central wearing a Cubs uniform. I feel like of all these guys, there's a lot of upside with him. Blake Snell, we talked about him yesterday, and a lot of you guys have slid in and said, well, yeah, 2-time Cy Young Award winner, but he's injured a lot. Well, that's true. And what about in between the Cy Youngs? Yeah, but the guy's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. I mean, think about that. Did it in both leagues. I mean, when he's on, he's on. So it's about staying healthy. The game's changed a lot, too. I mean, unfortunately, he's got to pitch 5 innings these days, right? 6. Whoa. It's not like it used to be where you're expected to go out there and give 7 to 9 innings. But with that said, I get those those concerns. But to me, if you're going to spend $100 million on Imanaga, who's never pitched in the major leagues, why not just go up and get Snell? You know, if you can get him at a reasonable rate. And that's the question. Can you get him at a reasonable rate? You know, reports came out that he was talking about how he'd like to pitch in New York. I'm sure he'd like to pitch in Chicago as well. Sean Manaea, another guy, when he's healthy, he's excellent. He's done some major things. I always loved Matt Moore. Always loved him. Saw him come up as a minor leaguer. Was on him immediately as a guy that I figured would have a lot of success. But, you know, you're talking, you want, starters and you want guys that are going to be able to go out there and give you innings. And at least that's what the Cubs need right now. So we'll see what happens. But, the whole point of what Mooney was saying in his article in The Athletic, and what we've talked about on here over and over again, is the only way that you can really get a fair deal out of Scott Boras is you just have to be patient. And the market has kind of played itself towards the Cubs through this. Then let's be honest, the number one player that you'd love to see come back is Cody Bellinger. And as this market's played out, there's a lot of teams around baseball that are very concerned about Bellinger. Now, we saw him for a season. We watched him every game. We believe in him. But a lot of other teams and executives don't believe in him enough to give him 7 years. They're looking at the 2 seasons that came after his MVP and the failings that he had with the Dodgers. And then we've talked about this over and over again, but I got to bring it up. His exit velocity, which all of a sudden now has become more important than production to analytics people, which is really crazy. I guess everyone saw Moneyball and the way that Billy Beane rewrote baseball. A lot of respect for them in what they were able to do with the A's. But there's more to the game. You don't have to conduct yourself where you're kind of undercutting the market, trying to find edges when you have money. You can just go out and get the players that can play. And there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all in baseball. It just doesn't work that way. And I hope it never changes. What I mean by that is if you go and play football, you go and play basketball, you can line everyone up, and you get a pretty good idea before you even see them touch the ball who can play the game. Yeah, size, stature. Baseball's different. Could be the smallest guy out there, and he may kick your ass. I mean, it's just the way it is. You know, Jose Altuve, how many of you guys played growing up and the little guy was tough? Dustin Pedroia types. So that's what makes baseball great. And that's why when I look at things like exit velocity and stuff like that, I say, hey, it's a tool that you use to kind of help predict things, but results matter more than anything. You go out and watch a guy get hits, he gets hits. You watch a guy come through in the clutch, he's coming through in the clutch. I don't remember any guy playing this game at an elite level in the big leagues and not doing that along the way in the minors. Maybe only for stretches, maybe only for flashes, but still, a lot of those players were really young on their way up, but you saw it. It's not like you just show up one day and it's there. Just because you hit the ball hard doesn't mean that you hit the ball hard where no one's standing. Or maybe it doesn't mean that you hit the ball hard that much when you hit it, because maybe you miss it a lot. The other thing is, like, to be a great hitter, like a Rod Carew, like a Mark Grace, you got to be able to touch the ball with the bat. Sometimes you don't want to hit it too hard. Think about this. You got a runner at third, less than 2 outs. A soft ground ball to second scores the run. So there's a lot more to it than just throwing up a Rapsodo and figuring out with technology how hard a guy hits the ball. But that has certainly been to the detriment of Cody Bellinger. So that's where we are right now in this waiting process. And I'm definitely interested to see what happens on Wednesday when the posting is up for Imanaga. Now, I think the Cubs potentially have put an offer out, and if it works within their range and they feel comfortable with it, they would sign him. I just don't imagine that the Cubs are going to go overboard on a guy who has never pitched in the major leagues. Dodgers did it with Yamamoto, and we'll see how that pans out. I got a feeling he's going to be fine. And I also think that Iganamo is going to be fine too. But it's a risk because the guy's never played. All right, that's it. It's going to be a fun week. Make sure that you guys do me a solid and check out the Tennessee Smokies team store. They are presenting the channel for you this offseason. SmokiesBaseball.com/store. They've got some amazing stuff there if you're collectors. And I'm on a Facebook page with a bunch of Cubs collectors, and they put memorabilia up all the time for sale. Well, a lot of really cool stuff exists at the Smokies team store, and that's autograph cards and bats and game-worn jerseys. They've got Cubs gear. They've got Smokies gear as well. They won their first championship in 45 years. So find out for yourself at SmokiesBaseball.com/store. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and go Cubs.